Hello, today I'm going to be reading chapter 22 of Takeout by Margaret Maron, and also, now I've got a fish cam! He's pretty great. He's pretty great. Giant goldfish. Yeah. Um, and also let me know down in the comments below what you would like to see. If you would like the fish cam, cat cam, plant cam, but anyways, chapter 22 of Takeout by Margaret Maron. Vic's garage was located in a run-down section of Greenwich Street that would probably become gent- gentrified once the Hudson Greenway was completed, but for now the garage was typical of the area. A shabby brick and concrete building with faded and peeling wall signs that advertised products long since discontinued. This close to the river, it was a self-parking facility with relatively low rates. Hence parked in the exit lane and showed his ID with to Vic Leibowitz, a beefy six-footer pushing 50, whose belly strained the bounds of his grease-stained gray t-shirt and hung over his belt like a hefty salami roll. Before he could ask what this was about, a woman pulled in out of the rain and nudged the no spaces sign that blocked her entry to the ramp. She lowered her window to wave a $10 bill at him. Come on, Vic, shoehorn me in, okay? I'm late for my meeting. Yeah, you're always late, Selma. Think this is valet parking? But he gestured to a pimply young man to move the signs so that she could ease up to the ticket machine and take the slip of paper it spit out. When the automatic arm raised, she stopped her car on the other side of it and got out. You're a prince, Vic. She handed him the ten and her car keys before unfurling her umbrella and hurrying out into the rain. When shown the ticket that had fallen from the plastic sleeve, Vic said, Yeah, that's one of mine, but they're supposed to hand 'em back when they pay at the gate. So the car could still be here? Asked Detective Hens. Vic looked closer at the date. Issued back in December? No way. You're absolutely sure? You keep track of every car that comes in? No, but if it was parked here 6 months, I'd have noticed, or my guys would have. Space is money, you know. Anything left here more than 96 hours gets reported to the police as an unclaimed vehicle. If the title holder can't be located, and the city doesn't want it, I can sell it for scrap. Or if it's worth a little money and I feel like filling out a bunch of forms and jumping through all the hoops, I can sell it at auction. Someone did leave a sweet little BMW here a few years ago. Got a nice chunk of change for that baby, but mostly they're junk and not worth the trouble, so I just scrap 'em. And how many have you scrapped since this ticket was issued? Vic shrugged. I'd have to look it up. 3 or maybe 4. People too lazy to dispose of their car the right way. Think it's easier just to drive it in here and walk away. I barely get enough to pay the towing fee. He walked back to the grimy, glass-fronted room that served as his office. As it turned out, Vic had actually scrapped 5 cars since December, one of which the city had claimed. A late-model Mercedes that had been used in a drug deal and had a bullet hole in the rear window. He had a copying machine and ran off copies of the reporting forms for them. The Mercedes had been 3 years old, the others were 8 to 10 years older than that. Vic shook his head when asked if he could match the ticket to one of those junkers, so they would take those forms back to the station. More fodder for the files, Hence told Urbanska, where they would keep trying to figure out why Matty Mouton had been carrying a park-it ticket for a car he didn't own, and which one of those it was. Too bad one of them's not an Oldsmobile, she said. The faxed prescription from Ms. Delvicha's doctor came through just after lunch, and after showing it to a nearby druggist, Tilly broke the bad news to Sigrid. "Sorry, Lieutenant. It's the same exact brand as Miss Randolph's." "So we're back at square one," she sighed. The skies had finally cleared, although there were still puddles to wet the shoes of the unwary. When Sigurd left her office shortly after 5 and headed for the nearest crosstown bus stop, the air felt thick and slightly sticky. The sidewalk was crowded with commuters, and walking was further impeded by construction barriers that channeled people through narrow passages no more than 4 feet wide in places. Just in front of her, an elderly woman stumbled on a bit of broken concrete, and as Sigurd reached out to steady her, a man on the other side took the woman's arm and kept her upright. Flustered, she thanked them both with an exasperated shake of her head. 73 years I've lived in this town, and they're never going to finish building it." The woman turned at the next corner onto a sidewalk that was smooth and barrier-free, but the man continued to step in step with Sigurd. "Lieutenant Harold?" he asked. So far as she knew, Sigurd had never met this middle-aged man before. "Yes?" He sidestepped a cluster of laughing teenage girls who were barreling down on them and held out a copy of a newspaper photo, one of her that had run when Newman died. "I thought it was you. I've waited almost an hour for you to come out. I'm Vincent Haas." She stopped so abruptly that someone bumped her from behind, muttered something halfway between an apology and a curse, and went around her in a huff. "Please," said the man, and touched her arm to guide her out of the main flow of pedestrians to a place of relative calm beside a hot pretzel cart, parked at the curb. "They have told you about me?" he asked. "Yes." Gray eyes met blue, and he was as Buntrock had described him. His height, his hair fast going white like Newman's, the color of his eyes, but somehow she had expected to feel something on a psychic level that would tell her whether or not he was really Newman's son. Instead, he was just a pleasant-faced man who could have been anybody. There was indeed something familiar about him, something she couldn't quite identify. But that probably rose from those pictures of Leela Nagy that Rudy Gottfried had shown her. "Please," he said, "could we go sit down somewhere, have a drink, talk for a few minutes? This is weird for me, too. Did they tell you? I only found out 6 months ago that I am not who I grew up thinking I was." Sigurd looked around blankly. The Urban Renewal Society was only a block away. Owned and run by 2 former cops, the scruffy bar's smoke-stained walls were lined with autographed pictures of uniformed police officers, including 4 of the last 6 police commissioners and 3 mayors. Over the bar, amid a clutter of outdated handcuffs, nightsticks, and other police equipment, was a wooden plaque with the names and badge numbers of former customers who had died in the line of duty. There were booths for those who wanted relative quiet with their better-than-average bar food, and drinks were modestly priced. But Sigurd knew that it was the precinct's favorite watering hole, which meant there might be speculative stares if she stopped in with this man. Still, the other options ran to salad bars, formica countertops, bright fluorescent lighting, and plastic drink cups. "This way," she told Haas. And that's the end of chapter 23, and as always, have a wonderful day.